Hey, what's up, everyone? For a little while now, I've been seeing a lot of things that HTML can do out of the box that I never actually knew it could do. When I was learning HTML, man, back in the day, it was really basic. JavaScript was just starting to add a layer of interactivity. I still remember elements such as the marquee or blink. Both of those things pretty much don't even exist anymore. But with the more modern browsers, there's a lot of new features and functionality that we can add out of the box that would have used frameworks like Twitter Bootstrap to accomplish back then. So what I've done is I've compiled a list of my 5 favorite ones, and I've thrown them on my website, #coder.dev. And I just wanted to run through them today and show you guys as well. So let's start with dialog boxes. So up to now, every time I wanted like some sort of dialog box, I was either throwing up an alert using JavaScript, which is super ugly and you can't really style them. It's a really intrusive, annoying pop-up that comes up, and pretty much most modern browsers allow you to actually suppress those alerts if they come up more than a couple of times. And so that sucked. And then I learned about modals, which just use styling and Z indexes to add like overlays to block the background elements, and then on the foreground come up with some sort of styled dialogue. And that's great. You know, for a while I had that, and there was a little bit of custom JavaScript that goes into creating them. But what I found recently is that a lot of modern browsers actually have dialogue elements built in. And we can go on caniuse.com and we can type in these elements and see which browsers support it. So obviously I'm using Chrome, and Chrome supports it since version 37, which was like 2014. Edge supports it, Opera supports it. Firefox has support for it, but I think you have to enable a flag to make it work. The big ones are iOS Safari, which doesn't support it, and I can confirm that if you go on my blog on your iPhone, you're not going to be able to see this particular one working. It looks a little bit broken, but interestingly, Android does, and Opera does, I guess, because they're based on Chrome. So just keep that in mind. You can just add a polyfill if you wanted to add this to your website, but it is pretty cool, and I can show you how I've implemented it here as well. So added the code snippet, and it really is as simple as just wrapping your elements within a dialog element, and then there is an attribute open which you set to either true or false, and then you can have some JavaScript to control when a button is clicked. You can set that attribute dynamically and toggle it to true or false. So here I've got it wired up, and it will appear in around about the middle of the screen here. There's no overlay behind it. There's no clicking out of it or anything like that. It is really basic, and I haven't really looked into the intricacies of it. Maybe if I learn something else about it, I can post an update video. But here it is. I've styled it very basically, as you can see. Added a little bit of padding. You have to custom create this close button as well, and literally do the same thing as you did with the open button, where it just sets that attribute to false, and so you can hide and show. That's as basic as it is. I can show you on my website how I've implemented it. So if I go into the post, and here it is, custom dialog. So my website is created in Gatsby, and so it has a React backend, and so I'm using hooks, the useState hook, to set the open state. I've got the button in there, and just keep in mind that this component here is just a demo component. So usually you wouldn't have the button and the dialog together. I've just got it together because that's just how I'm presenting it. The component is just the demonstration, and so I've got it all wired up together. Usually you would pass the state down into probably a custom dialog element, however you wanted to do it. I also use Tailwind for the CSS styling, which I think is really, really awesome. And so, if you haven't looked at it, I encourage you definitely to look at that. It allows you to do a lot of responsiveness and a lot of cool customization and CSS styling using just classes without having to roll your own. So it's really cool. So you can see I've just got it on click, and it just sets it open to true. then on click on the close button, which sets it to false, and then a little bit of custom content and some padding. That really is all it takes. And that's what we end up with right here. Out of the box, it is just totally blank. You just see whatever content you've got just overlaid on your content, and that's really it. So nice and simple one there. The next one is probably one of my favorites actually, which is the autocomplete. So I first learned about how to implement autocompletes with Twitter Bootstrap, and back then I remember it being a bit complicated to wire it up. It was a bit fiddly and annoying. You had to like use some JavaScript, and the way it was laid out was a bit weird. What I've learned is that you can just add a list attribute to your already existing text inputs, and then specify a data list and just put options in there. And how it works is it adds a drop down to your input boxes where you can select any of the options, and I assume you can make this dynamic as well. And it actually does filtering, so if you start typing red, for example, it will filter it down. Let's go to can I use, and we can put data list. See if it comes up. The data list element seems to be supported pretty much through the browsers, so it's something that you can be fairly sure that you'll be able to use. And it just adds an extra dimension to your input boxes just to add those autocompletes. Really cool. You can have multiple of them on your page, and it's really simple to add it to your existing inputs, which I think is the most important thing. It doesn't take that much of a change to add a lot of value, so something definitely there to look at. Next is the accordion. This one is like, it's not my favorite thing. One of the things I do like about it is that it allows you to add a lot of text onto your page without having just a massive wall of text. And that is cool, but it is kind of also an anti-pattern because you are hiding a lot of content too, and you have to kind of draw the user's attention to it. One of the things I do like about it though is that it's really simple to implement. Just a couple of tags, a section tag, the details tag. There's also an article tag I think you can use. You're just setting that open attribute, same as the dialog boxes. Styling wise, there's really nothing to it. It seems like these little arrows here get added out of the box, at least on Chrome. I can show you again the code. If I go to accordion, you can see I've just styled it up with a little bit of tailwind. But again, there's really nothing much to it. You've got a summary, which ends up being a header, and then you've got your main content there as well. And you can just add your custom classes there and do whatever you need to style it up how you want it styled up. But it seems to work nicely on Chrome, and I'm pretty sure it works on iOS Safari at least, so you should be able to see it there. Next, date picker. What I really like about this one is that when I started learning HTML, again, like back in the day, there was only a couple of input types. There was like radio, there was text, and I don't really remember if there was anything else. Now you get a bunch of them. You've got color, you've got number, you've got email, and they'll just add like custom masks on top. And with some of them, for example, if you set type as color, it actually pops up with a color wheel for you to select a specific hex code. With date, what it does is it creates this, it adds this date drop down, and you can actually select the date that way. A lot of frameworks, a lot of sites I've been on custom create these type of things, and it just shows that you don't need to. You can use one out the box. On my iPhone at least, it comes up with the spinning wheel at the bottom, that little dialog box where you can spin the wheel to select the date, the month, and the year. So it customizes it for the environment that you're in as well. When it comes to support, let's see. Date and time input, so time is another one clearly. Support for it, surprise Safari not supported, Chrome does support it, Firefox kind of supports it, Edge supports it, and then most of the others do as well. iOS Safari does partial support. You just have to keep these in mind. If you're going to use these out of the box, then just polyfill them or just fall back to what you have currently, to whatever framework you're using. But being able to standardize it and customize it for the environment you're in, to be able to utilize the native functionality, for example, if you're on your phone, or the native date input boxes if you're on your desktop, that is a nice little touch you can add. And then finally, a little less useful, but a nice reminder for me at least, that when HTML was first created, it was just to output documents to the screen, and that this interactivity that we now add with JavaScript and all these frameworks, React, Angular, Vue, etc., are all customizations that we've added on top and weren't part of the original spec. So sticking to that theme, there's some elements that allow us to show edits. For example, if we want to, on our page, the mark element allows us to highlight some text, and you can just set the background, insert, and the delete elements allow us to essentially just strike through or underline. It really is just syntax, just to make it clear what we're doing. There's other ways to achieve the same type of the same styling, but having those elements there just kind of allows maybe screen readers to understand what's happening, or to highlight parts of the text that the author felt needed highlighting. So that's cool too. And one more time, just going back to the code, there really isn't that much here. What I've done is just added custom classes to the elements themselves. Alternatively, I could have just styled them globally in my CSS, and I wouldn't have had to add these custom classes here. They would just automatically style how I wanted them to. So, quick little video there, 5 little interesting elements that you can use out of the box right now. Definitely use Can I Use to make sure that the browsers that you're targeting support them. Polyfill to make sure that everyone has a consistent experience on your site or on your application. If you know any other elements, definitely drop them down below. I'd love to see what else you guys know that I haven't even seen. And if you're interested in this type of content, check out my blog. I put a few posts on there a week, quick tips with JavaScript, VS Code, which I use pretty heavily as well, and just general, coding tips and developer career suggestions and just little articles like that. So if you like this video, give it a like. If you have any suggestions for content that you want to see, again, just drop it in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.